Welcome to Getting Personal with Plant Medicine. I'm your host, Diana Crash, and today I am joined by Sysamone, Papone, and Riley, her daughter Riley. Sysamone has a company called Sysamone Wellness, which is an amazing CBD company, so it is very much a part of her everyday life. There's no compartmentalizing when it comes to parenting and business in the way of plant medicine, right? It's a part of everything in your life. So she is the first person I thought of when it came to talking to kids about CBD, because I don't think that we really explore that very much. And I'm saying we, I'm being very general. But I don't hear a lot of discussions about how to talk to your children about CBD, because now that it's so mainstream, it's almost like people just say, whatever, it's CBD, you know? But there's a lot more to it than that, as you know. So, in what ways do you incorporate discussions about CBD into the broader conversations about health, self-care, and responsible decision-making with your children?
Yeah, so my kids have been fully aware of what I do ever since the moment I started it. We had to have a really frank conversation about what mommy does for work and what could possibly be the perception by other people, like their classmates or the parents of their classmates. And so early on, I approached it from an education standpoint at all times. I helped my kids understand the difference between CBD and THC, as well as hemp-derived versus marijuana-derived, so they understand this isn't weed mommy's selling to get people high. Also, so they understand the difference in what each cannabinoid kind of does for you, and why I do it, why I sell it, why I create it. Um, I've gone kind of pretty much through every area. I wouldn't call it more so like I approach them as a teacher. I approach them more so as like, hey, let's learn this together. You guys are more than welcome to ask me anything you want to ask. And I will answer happily, because I just feel like when it comes to CBD, and just our industry, there has to be kind of transparency, and open communication if I want my children to make responsible decisions when they do decide to consume, or if they come up against, which they have, like friends saying, oh, why don't you get some of your mom's stuff for me? Or like, try and what does she do? Can we come over and try it? Things like that. Or like if they're looking in the refrigerator, they can tell like, okay, these are mom's products. And this is regular orange juice. Right? And so my approach has always been transparency, openness, open communication, and everything I learn, I share with them as well.
So, in what ways do you incorporate discussions about CBD into broader conversations about health, self-care, and responsible decision-making with your children?
Well, with my kids, from the start of my work, I've always kept an open door policy and transparency with them. The moment I started working, I knew that there wasn't a way for me to kind of block them from this, or from my perspective, I felt like it was safer to educate them openly about CBD, about the difference between CBD and THC, about, marijuana derived versus hemp derived. The only way they would understand like the benefits for their health or possible self-care, and responsible decision making was if I approached it from an educational standpoint, where they can come to me and ask any questions, where I explain, the cannabinoids, their benefits, the safety, labeling, all those things. Anything I learned, I teach them as well. Because I don't want my kids to consume something without like taking a real good look into how it's made, who it's made by, like the content, the potency, the dosage, the safety, and why are you taking it, right? I want them to make responsible decisions because, one, they have a mother who's in the industry where it could be misstrued as like, for those that don't understand it, that I'm doing something bad. And I also don't want them to be approached by their friends or the parents of their friends with questions that they can't answer, right? And so from the start, I've always kept an open door policy of transparency of what, why I created it, why certain people use it, why mommy uses it, what it could be beneficial for. And the more research I learn, the more I know, I continue to educate them as well. And so for us, we have very transparent conversations in this household so that they fully understand what CBD is. Also, if a friend, approaches them of like, hey, what's in your mom's stash, or can you take some and bring it to school, or if a parent asks them questions when they're at school or interrogates them, they know how to answer the questions. And so for me, it's the way we incorporate is normal. We normalize it here in this home. Patients are normalized. Anything they read on the internet or are taught, they bring home and they ask me,
Yeah. I
so
mean, there's a lot to read for sure now. I mean, that kind of helps and it hurts in the same vein. But to that point, do you have any specific guidelines when it comes to your children, like with the products, and especially as they grow older? I mean, do you have any type of rules
rules.
or?
Yeah. So one big one is which they've gotten used to. In the beginning, it was a little hard, but I don't allow friends over to our home. So we don't have play dates here. We don't have sleepovers here just because, I do have like a corner of products. I do have products in our refrigerator. I mean, I can trust my children not to like take this stuff and go spread it around. And I can trust my children to understand the difference between this is infused orange juice versus regular orange juice from the supermarket. But I can't control other children's actions and what they do in my home. And so one big rule is that friends aren't really allowed here at all. And friends that do come with children, they also have rules when they come into my home with their kids. But for the most part, my kids, their friends aren't allowed over here just because I don't want to take that risk, right? With other people's kids, possibly, taking something or taking it home with them. The other rule is if you don't know, ask. And so within our refrigerator, we have a corner, a shelf that's specifically for mom's products, like anything that's in R&D and all that stuff. I bring stuff home from the lab all the time for my manufacturers. And so if they don't know if it's infused or not, they ask. And so I've also taught my kids how to read labels to understand what is CBD, THC, things like that. So they easily can discern. But sometimes, just in case, they always ask, like, Mom, I just want to make sure, is this cookie safe? But those are two big rules that we have in this home is one, no friends are allowed, but my kids are more than welcome to go hang out with their friends and all that stuff. And two, if you don't know, ask.
Yeah, and to that point, do they have any misconceptions, or have they had any misconceptions about CBD over this course that you've been, through this journey you've been on?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a daily struggle, but it is there in terms of misconceptions still, even with a mom in the industry, because they, when they're at school, they're being taught that, it's bad and stuff through curriculum. And because they're still not, there's still stereotypes, stigmas around it. And there's still people who don't fully understand the plant. And so sometimes they'll come home and be like, Mom, I was told this, blah, blah, blah. Or they'll share a video with me of like somebody making content about it and asking if this is facts or what is my perspective or opinion on it. And so before they were fully educated on it, they just thought same as most people, they associate it with cannabis, with marijuana, versus understanding the difference between hemp-derived and cannabis-derived. And so early on, there was a lot of education around like, no, this does not get you high. This mommy's products is all about wellness benefits, health benefits without the high. And so, they still get those here and there because they have people around them that don't fully understand plant medicine and aren't educated in the way that they are about it. And so,
and also with all of the new products coming out that are hemp derived that might get you a little high.
yeah, and there's so many products that are in the illicit market that are designed towards kids, right? Their branding and all that stuff. And so they get confused of like, oh, well, I thought this wasn't, really supposed to get you high. Why are these saying CBD gets you high? And it's like explaining where CBD can be derived from both ends, right? Hemp and cannabis. And that's where like you have to read the label, you have to understand like the nutrition, blah, blah, blah. You have to know also even the regulations to be able to tell what's from the illicit market and what's from the regulated market and stuff. And so, yeah, it still happens daily. I mean, my kids come home, maybe a friend made a comment or they saw something or somebody taught them something at school about it. And so they come with their questions.
Yeah, it's always something, right? Especially with social media. All right, so now we're going to ask Riley some questions. Riley, thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate it. So, how does your parent explain CBD to you, and what do you understand about its uses and effects?
Well, the way that my mom explains CBD is usually like I used to have questions about it, like I didn't really know about it, to be honest. I was like, is this like medical weed or something? Like I was confused. And she was saying that it's like they're like two different things. Like sometimes the one she does like CBD and stuff, like they help people in a way. Like I know she has like healing bombs. She has like gummies that help with sleeping or like waking up, anxiety. So she just tells me they help with daily things that sometimes people need. Sometimes like other stuff doesn't work for her, so she makes these and these help people.
And so, do you feel comfortable discussing CBD with other adults, not just your mother?
Um, it depends. Mostly with my mom, only because sometimes like people like perceive CBD as like a bad thing, so I don't know how they would really feel about it. And it's just like a lot of assumptions surrounding it, and like this is bad, like why does your mom do it, like just misconceptions about it.
So it's difficult to kind of come back at that when people have their minds made up in a way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you have any suggestions for how conversations could be improved or made more informative for you and your friends? You're a teenager. I know that can be difficult, right? But like, what do you think is missing in the education about CBD for kids your age?
I think having open conversations about the pros and cons of CBD, like I said, some products don't work for everybody, some do. So everyone, it's just different and you have to understand what works and what doesn't.
Absolutely. So, how do you feel about your mom's involvement in the CBD industry and having a CBD wellness company?
Well, at first I was like uncomfortable because I didn't know what this all was. Like I thought it was I just didn't know because when I was growing up I heard like in school that this is bad, you shouldn't do this, like blah blah blah. I didn't know there was like a better side to view it. It was just always like you shouldn't do this and do that. But like since I've had like a conversation with my mom about it, I understand it more and I'm way more comfortable with
It's
how
a
it
big
is.
part of your family though, right? Like over the generations. So it must feel weird when people are telling you that's not the right way of living when
Yeah.
So do you have any questions about CBD? I mean, we already kind of covered that a little bit, but like, what do you do when you have questions about CBD for your mom?
Well, obviously, I like ask her and stuff. Like sometimes I remember there was a time there's something in the fridge, and I was like, it looks like something I wanted to eat. So I was like, but it was something was telling me, I was like, wait, maybe I should ask my mom. So I was like, Mom, what is this? Like, am I allowed to eat this? And she was like, yeah, you can eat it. There's, nothing, there's no CBD or nothing in it. And I was like, okay, that's great. Like, I'm, just comfortable asking her what this is, even when I'm just, walking around the house.
We have like sections for stuff, for mommy stuff, but sometimes like, things get moved around, and so that's why I have that rule that if you don't know, always ask. And so
I love that, really, truly. And I also should share that I give my son your CBD gummies, and he knows that that's his special gummy at night that he has. Like, he
yeah,
knows it's just one that he's going to have from that at
yeah.
night. So that's a big deal.
Yeah, we have so many parents that like I have a lot of parents that will message me privately and talk about the safety of their children consuming, if they can give it to them or not. And I know it's still very hard for parents to be open about it, just because I mean, even last week there was a mom in the news that got sentenced to jail because she was trying to help her daughter recover from her chemotherapy, her neuropathy pain, by giving her CBD oil. And so it's tough for parents to be open about it, right? And talk about it. I mean, I have so many parent friends who have used it for many different things. One has used it for her daughter's really bad eczema, using cream, CBD cream and oil on her skin to help heal, because all of these other prescription meds didn't work, right? I have friends who give it to their daughters, including mine, for cramps, menstrual. She has like such debilitating cramps that it takes her out of school. And sometimes regular prescription store shelf over the counter medicine doesn't help, doesn't work. And also it's filled with so many like bad things for their body
You
as
know what's
well.
wild? Not to cut you off, but that just brought me back to my own high school experience, and just thinking about how I just saw in the New York Times that people are like saying, "Oh, CBD is over. We're over it. It's so oversaturated. It's everywhere." And yet, when I was in high school, for the same reasons, I had a prescription for Tylenol 3, which is codeine, which put me
Mhm.
to sleep in school, and that wasn't controversial. And I mean, the other countless pharmaceuticals they put me on that made me like super loopy and, out of it. And yet taking something that doesn't affect you really at all in any kind of a way, it's not going to inebriate you other than make you feel better. That's how it will affect you. Is so controversial to this day.
Yeah,
Like in 2024, we're still having to like be kind of secretive about giving our children CBD. It's so wild. With everything
yeah.
that's going on in the world and everything that's stressing out kids and all the things that they have to deal with right now. And I just feel like CBD is a tool in the wellness belt that we all need. And having the transparency is so great. And I'm so thankful that parents like you exist. And also, I'm grateful that you put out a wonderful product that I can trust to give my child. So I really appreciate it. So before we end, do you have any specific advice for parents who are trying to tackle this with their own children?
I mean, I always, when parents come to me about it, I always say, legally, I cannot tell you to give your child CBD. I always tell parents, like, you make that decision at your own discretion of what you believe is best. I'm here just to educate and guide on the benefits of it. And I always say there's so many anecdotes out there already with parents who there's a circle of us. There's so many of us, for those that are worried, are afraid they'll be judged or criticized if they decide they want to give their child a natural version. They want to provide their children with plant medicine to help with their daily ailments, their health and wellness. For me, it's a matter of transparency and honest, open conversations about it, and also self-education, right, on it. I'm always here as a guide for other parents to chat. I've put a lot of articles out through
And a guide.
Yep, and a guide that helps educate. I even have parent articles of how to approach these conversations
Oh.
and whatnot through my mom's blog team. And so there's so many different factors around why parents are afraid, right? To really talk about it openly. But also there's so many like anecdotes and research and information out there that shows that it is helpful and it's safe and it's okay. It's just a matter of understanding, right? Even as adults, we have to understand labeling and packaging and how to discern safe products for the market versus illicit products, things like that. And so for me, like my advice is just to keep an open mind, do your research. And if you choose to use CBD as a wellness tool for your child, just do the homework and make sure you're comfortable and confident about the decision. And if you need a guide, I'm here. Diana is here with her podcast. And there's so many parents that are literally using plant medicine, not just for themselves, but for their families as well, their kids. And
Absolutely.
so you're not alone.
No, and I use it for my fur kids too.
Yeah, exactly.
Riley, do you have anything you want to add? Any advice you have for parents out there who are looking for better ways to talk to their kids about CBD?
Just being honest, I know a lot of sometimes parents can come off as intimidating when talking about this stuff with their kids. Because I've also come across that sometimes too. But I'm saying be honest and just talk to your kid like you would maybe just regular medicine too, like Tylenol, sometimes how this works and all that. Because I also use my mom's gummies for my headaches and stuff too. At first I was like, am I allowed to take this? And my mom was like, yeah, of course, it's not going to do this. It's just going to help. And it really did help. So, yeah.
That's awesome. I love that. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. This episode was produced by Your Highness Media, audio editing done by James Crash, and sponsored by mitragaya.com. Be sure to subscribe and rate our podcast if you haven't yet. And subscribe to our Your Highness Media newsletter on Substack for everything new going on in the Your Highness Media world.